Welcome in to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, the official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. A podcast dedicated to everything you need to know about the squad. Hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and those who cover the NBA on a daily basis. It's time to flock up. The New Orleans Pelicans Podcast starts right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, the official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans, and Mr. Jim Eichenhofer, Pelicans.com. He and I are from our winter snowstorm command studios, a.k.a. our houses, sir, because Snowmageddon, the snowpocalypse, as Graf called it in the broadcast back on Monday, has taken place. As an official New Yorker, how do you describe what you saw yesterday and woke up to this morning? I got a foot of snow at my house in Metairie. You tell me, as a New Yorker, what do you feel and see this morning?
Yes, I'm happy to join you from my winter bunker, Gus. My reaction to it was, and I think you heard me speak this way for a few days too, I was highly skeptical that we would get a legitimate snowfall because, you know, it's just one of those things that you just can't imagine it's going to live up to the hype. And I mean, honestly, as a New Yorker, I'm impressed that the fact that this much snow came down and that the forecasts were all correct. If anything, I think we got a little bit more snow than what most of the projections were. So the fact that it's going to take some effort, not that I'm going to try, but it would take some effort to get out of the driveway today. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a legitimate amount of snow, Gus. This is not what we saw in 2008 where it was just a little dusting.
Little dusting, yes.
Something that I kind of sneered at because I was just not impressed at all. I mean, this is stunning. And the fact that I heard people say that it's been 130 years since there's been anything close to this amount of snowfall in New Orleans. I'm just happy for people that they got to experience this. For me personally, it's probably been over 1,000 days of snow. So it's not quite the same, but I still think it's cool to see it in an area that never gets snow.
Yeah, 1895 was the last time he had anything close to this. And to your point, look, a dusting would have been cool for my 8-year-old to see. And I of all the things, and I have way too many photos and videos to even go over from yesterday, Jim, but it was so cool seeing my 8-year-old wake up in the morning and he's saying something like, "It's covered in snow." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I opened the curtain from my bedroom window, and to see that, I did not expect that because full disclosure, it was 2:30 a.m. the night before. My wife and I are outside, and we're like waiting to see one flake because it kept showing on the radar like light blue. Like, I just want to see one flake. I want to see one flake. So to wake up and to see it covered in white, and what we saw at 7 would have been enough. And then it snowed all day, but it was cool, man. The mini Schnauzer went back to nature. He was out there playing and eating the snow, and it was just fun, man. So the reason we bring that up, it's historic. We don't get to see it, but because of that, the second part of what happens with a winter storm has taken place. That's ice. That's icicles. That's snow melting and then freezing. That's happening today, Jim. So because of that, what's taking place with the game tonight?
Yeah, the game is going to be postponed and against the Milwaukee Bucks. They've actually been here since Monday, so I think they're going to head back to Wisconsin as soon as they can because they have a game against the Miami Heat in Milwaukee on Thursday night. But the Pelicans will not be playing this evening, and I guess we're going to have to wait to see when they can reschedule the game to, if they can find a spot on the schedule where both teams have an opening, or they might have to move some other stuff around. But no game Wednesday night, and the 4-game winning streak will continue until Friday. We know for sure when they play Memphis on Friday, they'll have the one of the longest winning streaks in the NBA. By that point, maybe the longest. We'll have to see what happens in other games.
It's really unbelievable as the Pelicans get that win back on Monday. Jim, it didn't start out well, and you said it in our postgame in Pelicans OT. You're not exactly wanting to get a pat on the back or give pats on the back on that, but it did, and it was the largest comeback in franchise history as the team comes back and wins that game. This is what it sounded like on the Pelicans radio network.
Murray's got it, up the floor, Jose. Stop, pop, left wing 3. That's too strong.
Oh, it dunked in! Swooping Hawk! Dunked in by Hawk!
With a right-hand throwdown, and finally the crowd in the Smoothie King Center's got something to cheer about.
Hawk turned into Plastic Man.
Puts it up, and Eubanks can't dunk it in. Taken by Hawkins. Got a 2-for-1 here if you want it. Murray, behind the back flip to Hawk. Deep straightaway three. Yes, sir!
Oh, Hawkeye. Yes, sir. That's the way you 2-for-1 it.
He shot that one from Kenner. It's a 5-point game. Mills threw it right to Jose. Give it to Hawkins. Dunk it down!
Oh, Hawk for 2. Spit on that thing.
Might have got away with a foul on a push, but I didn't see nothing. McCollum, Theis, Murphy, Green, and Murray on the floor. Dejounte, right of the lane, gets CJ off the curl, right wing three. He did it again!
That's a beautiful play. That's a down screen that CJ comes off. He's wide open.
CJ to DJ. Shot clock at 8. Murray weaves through to the elbow, now to the block, lay it up and in with a left hand.
Well, got to the rim.
16 seconds to go.
Now, Utah's going to have the last shot, but DJ able to turn the corner and get to the rim.
Trey front court.
But they don't pick him up.
Trey going to drive on Kessler, instead thought better of it. Handed off to McCollum, who drives right by Kessler, and this time he reverses it with a right hand as he comes in from the left baseline.
Because Filipowski is trailing him, and he uses the rim for protection.
114-111 New Orleans. That's our largest lead of the night. McCollum, right corner Trey for 3. Yes, yes, yes. Murphy's corner in the cold in New Orleans.
Kenneth Murphy III, Trey Bien.
Timeout Utah. Inbound to Collier. Timeline to George. Deep straightaway 3. That is a brick. Trey rebounds it. And the Pelicans make history. Their largest ever comeback. Down 25. And winning it overtime, 123-119.
In a game where it's cold outside and the Pelicans were frigid inside, but they warmed up and figured it out, and they played like they wanted to win this game for the last 3 quarters. They really turned it on and maintained enough juice to win it down the stretch.
So the comeback was complete. What did it mean to win a game like that? Jim, here's head coach Willie Green.
Yeah, it was huge resiliency on our guys tonight. You know, getting down early. You know, they were hitting shots. We wasn't in a rhythm. You know, kind of lax out there. And then the second half, we were able to turn it around. So, you know, huge credit to our guys in the locker room pulling together and going on a run and winning this game. This is a hard game to win.
Jim, it is. All these games are hard to win. I don't know. How do you describe that victory?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bottom line victory. I mean, you can't dispute that. They won the game. I mean, obviously, it was disappointing the way they started out, where they were down by 25 points in the first half. But for them to bounce back the way that they did and then get it to overtime and then win in overtime, I mean, we've seen a lot of frustration this season, and we've seen obviously a lot of losses. So, I mean, I don't think it's one of those things where if you win a game that you can really look at it sideways. It counts as a win, and I think the team will take as many of those as they can get. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to be happy that it was a victory, even if it wasn't a flawlessly executed 48-minute or I guess 53-minute game in this case.
Difference between the first half and second half. This is what Dejounte Murray had to say.
We just was ready to compete and play basketball. I think it's that simple.
There it is. Compete and ready to play basketball. It's that simple. As far as a little more detailed, El Presidente, who we'll get to, 45 points for CJ McCollum. He had this to say.
The coach just challenged us to be more disciplined, to be more engaged, to be more aggressive and assertive. We didn't bring it in the first half, and it was obvious. You know, they hit us in the mouth to start the game. We had some, turnovers. We were soft on defense. They got and-ones. They got whatever they wanted to start the game. And we knew we had to be a little bit more aggressive in the second half, and we were.
Are you surprised that CJ McCollum's had a 50-point game and a 45-point game this year?
Maybe a little bit, just based on the fact that it's not something that he had done in his first few years here. And I mean, there's not that many players in the NBA that you aren't surprised if they have 50. You're talking the Lukas, the Kyries, those kind of players, maybe Joel Embiid when he's healthy. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I am a little bit surprised, but I mean, if you think about it though, this guy he had a 50-point game when he was with Portland a bunch of years ago, and he had some 40-point games besides that as well. So it's not totally out of line for him to have some of these explosive games. But I think the most interesting part specifically about Monday's game was that he only made 5 3-pointers. The game against Washington where he had 50, he made 10 threes in that game. So, I mean, you make 10 threes and you're already at 30. So then you add in the twos and the free throws and you're up to a pretty good number. But I think maybe more so than just the 45-point game and the 50-point game that he's had just in January is the fact that it seems like he's been really good inside the arc too. He's been scoring on a lot of drives. He had some really crafty reverse layups against Utah that helped him get up to that number. But I mean, there's no doubt that he's been huge in some of these games that they've won lately.
That's what Dejounte Murray had to say.
I mean, he's a pro. He take care of his body. He loves the game of basketball. He loves the process that comes with it. So I don't expect nothing less. And me just trying to be on the same page with him and get him, as much easy looks as I could get him. Just trying to utilize him in the right way. But like I said, it's a real professional, real veteran guy. So take care of his body, love the process of everything, the ups and downs. So, I'm not surprised.
And then he was asked, Jim, about having, as you just talked about, a 50-point game, a 45-point game at this point in his career, and what keeps him going. Obviously, the win-loss record being the way it is.
Just try to hit base hits every day. I just keep swimming, man. I get my work in, take advantage of each day. Got a good lift in with my guy last night. Took care of my body, got to spend quality time with my family, change a couple diapers, meet my wife at the park with my son, and just try to keep a real perspective of what I do for a living every day, right? Like, this is what I do. It's not who I am. And I think when you look at it that way, you just work and you allow your daily preparation to feed into each day. And I think for me, it's going to be good nights. It's going to be not so great nights, but the work is the same. The approach is the same. The discipline, the sacrifice, all the things that I have to put into this game to be successful and compete at a high level each night, I do. And sometimes it's a night like tonight, even though I missed some wide open shots. I had 45, but I missed open shots, I missed layups, I got scored on a couple times in the switches, which can't happen, especially on some of those guys. So I just got to be better and not take possessions for granted and just take advantage of my talents and take advantage of playing the sport I love every day.
So we had a baseball reference there with getting base hits. We had an acknowledgement of swimming. I think he had said. He also touched on his parenting. So man, he squeezed a lot of different aspects of life and sports into that quote. So yeah, he's had some really impressive performances lately. And by the way, too, Gus, he's also now 8 shy of tying the franchise record for most career 3-pointers made. Drew Holiday has 628. CJ McCollum has 620. I mean, it probably would have been a lot to ask if they had played the game Wednesday night for him to do it at home and make 8 or 9 threes and break that record in franchise history. But I think there's a pretty decent chance now that he's going to do it on the road during this upcoming road trip to Memphis, Charlotte, and Toronto, with him having 3 games to make 9 threes to overtake Drew Holiday at the top.
And just to be technical here before we get to our next segment, which I'm excited about, Daniel Theis, and you had a chance to sit down and discuss some things, but that's franchise record, meaning that's how many threes he's hit while a Pelican, right?
Yes.
Which is incredible. The reason I bring that up is because I think Drew Holiday was here longer.
Yeah, I think Drew played here. I'd have to go back and look.
4 or 5 years?
I want to say 7 seasons.
Okay,
he played here.
Well, CJ hasn't been here 7 seasons is my point.
Right. He was traded for in February of 22.
This
so
is
it hasn't
third
even
year.
been 3 years on the calendar. 3 full years that he's played here. Yeah. So
that's my point. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. It didn't take him long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to be writing something just to give a little preview tease. I'm going to be writing something about him breaking the record, not to jinx it here or anything, but I noticed, for example, it only took him 40 games to make 100 threes as a Pelican. So, I mean, you just see the way that the game has changed.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from Drew Holiday, but he wasn't really known as a great 3-point shooter. So the fact that he has the franchise record really is more a testament to how long he played here than it is necessarily the fact that he was just out there taking threes like Steph Curry.
Right.
So, I mean, but for CJ to do it, I think a lot of the 3-point records are going to be broken on a regular basis these days because just the volume is so much higher than it was even 5, 6, 8 years ago. But you're right. I mean, for him to be able to do this so rapidly is pretty interesting. The fact that, it hasn't taken him. I'd have to go back and look of how many career games he's played here, but it hasn't been that many.
No, and he hasn't. Drew wasn't asked to shoot the threes like C.J. McCollum is. Look, you heard me mention it. I'm looking forward to hearing this interview with Daniel Theis. Look, Misi's missed some games here, being under the weather a little bit, but I also feel even while Misi was not under the weather, Daniel Theis has had, I would say, especially in the month of January, a moment or two in the game, Jim, where they were kind of important, whether it's a three, a rebound, a putback dunk, a screen, or something like that. I don't know. From the beginning of the season to now, what was one of the reasons you were looking forward to talking to Daniel Theis?
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that he's played so much better and he's been a lot more effective. He looks a lot more comfortable. I feel like since the Pelicans have been in a position, relatively speaking, lately, even though, like you said, there's been some guys out and his minutes have gone up because Yves Misi has missed a couple games because of illness. But the group of players and the combination of players has kind of settled in a little bit to the point where we kind of have a decent understanding from night to night of who's going to be playing off the bench, how many minutes those guys are going to be getting, what combination are going to be out there with each other. Even though Brandon Boston's been inactive the last couple games because they're trying to keep him under the max limit of games that he can play as a two-way contract guy. But basically, just Daniel Theis has just played really well lately. And I think it was Friday's game against Utah. He had season high in points with 18. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to just sit down with him. I thought the timing of this was very good. The fact that he's played well and he's been one of the more effective and valuable reserves off the bench for the Pelicans. And by the way, too, I should point out, just for safety purposes, this interview was done on Sunday because we knew that Tuesday there was almost no chance that they were going to practice. So didn't have a show on Monday. Figured that this would be good for Wednesday's show, but there was no risks taken to get this interview done. We didn't do it yesterday. We didn't do it.
It's called advanced planning. Yes.
Right. We did it Sunday after practice. So it actually worked out really well to be able to have this for today's show.
Yeah, looks fantastic. All right. Here is that interview with Jim Eichenhofer and Pelican Center, Daniel Theis.
Welcome back to the Pelicans Podcast. I'm here with Daniel Theis. Daniel, now I think everyone has really seen the team play so much better lately, won a lot more games lately. You seem like you've gotten more comfortable and just played really well. What do you attribute that to? Is a lot of it just having more time together? Is it just being able to get a lot of the guys back on the court finally?
I think it comes together like everything you said, because we had a tough start in the season with that many injuries. After the first games, after 3 games, we already had 3-4 people out. Mm-hmm. We were counting on all year, and then obviously fighting through injuries, adversity.
Who was that? I didn't see it.
BI.
Oh, was it? Okay.
It's obviously not easy for teams just to go through a phase when you have your best 6-7 players out for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. And you get one back, you lose another one, so...
I don't think he realizes that this is for a podcast.
Yeah. No, but lately I think we found a good rhythm on the court. Offensively, we've been moving the ball. We're finding people who have a hot hand, and it's not just the winning part, because we lost the Minnesota game at home, but we felt good about it. We had a good game, and I think it comes together just reps, games, and right now it's we're in a spot we don't have much to lose anymore, so we gotta go out and play hard and just win as many games as we can.
Going into, you guys still aren't at full strength. You still have the guy that's tried to jump into the podcast out, and Herb Jones out as well. But do you feel like, what's it been like to just kind of have closer to the group of guys that you expected to be out there, to have, just to be able to see the talent that this team has on the court?
On one side, obviously, it's kind of sad that we don't know what this team could have done early for the first part of the season, because with everybody healthy and being out there playing those games. But now, just getting everybody back, getting in rhythm, and helps obviously. And then Herb is the big part of it, especially on the defensive end. He's the glue guy, keep everybody together, with BI out, with his anchor, obviously a guy who creates for himself, and everybody else on the court draws so much attention. Like I said, it's kind of it's kind of sad that we couldn't see, or we still haven't seen what this team is capable of, like in a full NBA season. But right now we try to make the best out of it, try to get everybody back as quick as possible and try to hold it down.
One of the things I think people have been watching the games lately have noticed is it seems like you and Jose Alvarado have a really good connection on the court. I remember the Philly game, it was like every time we looked up, you were rolling through the paint and he was finding you for baskets. What's it been like playing with him and just having him back lately?
I'm obviously me and him coming off the bench now together, and both of us are pick and roll players. Like he obviously has a headline as a screener. And it's the same. Like we need reps. We need a game reps, practice, but just getting in a better rhythm on the court together. Like finding a synergy out there obviously helps. And then playing off his speed, he draws attention on the pick and roll. Like doing leverage, like he can score. He can find the corners, like shooters. He can find the bigs. So I think that's something we can build off.
How would you describe his personality? What's it like being around him on a day-to-day basis?
Definitely one of the most talkative and loudest people I've been around in a very positive way. Like you always got the energy, a good energy around. Like when he's not in the building, you can tell like we're missing something. Mm-hmm. And he always brings the energy for the whole team and especially for himself. And you could see the last games out there. The fans love him too. When he gets into it, he's playing hard. He gets into it even with another player, like a little bit like in the Utah game, that pushes the whole team and gives life to the whole building.
Yeah. I remember you mentioned maybe during training camp or early in the season that one of the roles that you thought was important for you to fill was kind of talking to some of the younger big guys, some of the younger centers on this team. You're really the only one that has a lot of experience in the NBA. I was wondering, from your perspective as a guy that's been in the league for a while, what's it been like to watch the way that Yves Missi has developed this year?
It's impressive. It goes back to all the work he puts in since day one I got here. And obviously before that, through summer league and all this stuff, he's working on his game like every day, and it really transitioned to the NBA games. And he got a special ability, especially with his shot blocking, athleticism, finishing above the rim. Yeah. And he can only get better from here. And then obviously it helps a lot for a big, and you have so many star players or guards around that can score and draw attention. And it makes it easier for the big to find him, like on the roads, on lobs. So like he developed very fast and very quick.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about Germany, the country where you're from. It seems like, especially with what you guys have done on an international stage in basketball, people around the NBA and around the world really have taken note of how much you guys are making strides and what you guys have accomplished as a basketball country as well. But I wanted to ask you too about just as a country. I mean, this might be a hard thing to summarize with not that much time to think about. But what are some of your favorite things about Germany, about the country, about being from there?
I mean, obviously it's home, so like
sure.
I grew up. It helps me a lot. Like Germany's known for like punctuality. Like you learn a lot. Be on time for everything early. Obviously, it helps when you go into a job, go into a basketball, it's a professional sport, whatever it is. And then obviously for the sport, like the real football, soccer is the number one sport in Germany, and basketball was always like very small. And then with the national team, the success we had over the last couple of summers with a bronze medal at the Eurobasket, winning the World Cup, it's like maybe one-time thing, like it's gonna happen. So just building a reputation for the sport and basketball in Germany is very like it's nice that we write our own story in their case.
What's been the most rewarding part about you playing for your national team and the success you've had are what you guys have done, like you mentioned the last couple of competitions, are these things that like you thought was realistic when you first started playing, or when you were like a teenager growing up in Germany? Did you think like we can win the World Cup someday? Like how did that go?
I mean, obviously you try to think as positive you can and try to win medals with the national team, but it's always hard because you don't know how is summer going to look like? What players are available, through injuries, long seasons. It's always like hit or miss, but the biggest part of it, or the most fun of it, is you get together with players you've been knowing for years. Like most of us played like the under 18 national team together, and now we get together in the summer, like after like 12, 14 years, then from the youth teams to like the man team and having success.
Yeah.
And obviously we went through not as good times as basketball in Germany. Like we had bad summers as well, but I think we built something over the last years through the national team, but also, as you mentioned, the NBA with Wagner brothers, like Dennis, myself, we got Matteo Hartenstein. Like, I think there's like, even the respect is growing for like the German basketball.
Yeah. You could probably tell by my last name, which is Eichenhofer, that it's a very German last name. My grandfather was born there, immigrated to the United States, to New York State back in the day. So I guess first thing, have you ever heard the last name Eichenhofer before? Is it common enough in Germany? There's definitely more Eichenhofers there than there are in the United States, for example.
I probably read it somewhere. It's not as common, but it definitely sounds German with the CH in the middle for sure.
For sure. And I've definitely thought about visiting there. I've never been there before. For somebody from America who wants to visit there, what are some of the things that you would recommend that I have to do if I went there to visit?
Definitely one of the major cities if you want to go like sightseeing. Obviously Berlin, Munich, Hamburg. Like those are cities you definitely got to go to and visit. Like great food, great places, sightseeing, whatever you need, you can just go to those bigger cities.
When I was researching your background, I saw somewhere that at one point, I think this might have been like 10 years ago, you played with your brother, right? You were a teammate of your brother? Was it professionally in Germany or?
Yeah, we played in the second division together. Yeah, he's 10 years older, so we had a year together.
And you were on the same team, or you were on the same
team?
league?
We played on the same team for a year, and also we played against each other.
What was it like playing against him or playing with him as a teammate, especially with that age difference?
It was fun, obviously, competing against a big brother on the basketball court. Where he got me into the sport, basically. I always played soccer growing up, so it was definitely a fun experience, and definitely grateful for things like this happening.
Cool. Daniel, one of the things I've noticed when I was looking through photos of your career and stuff like that, there's tons of pictures of you greeting opposing players or greeting people from other teams. I know part of it is you've played on a lot of teams, so I'm sure you've made a lot of good friends, and you've been seems like you're a pretty popular teammate here as well. But I wanted to ask you, excluding the guys here, can you give me, not counting the players on the Pelicans because I don't want you to make anybody angry or upset, but who have been like your favorite teammates that you've had in the NBA? Who are the guys that maybe you're the closest with, or the guys that you've enjoyed being teammates with the most?
Definitely over the years with the Celtics, I still talk to Jason Tatum a lot. Like we in contact with each other, like in the summer when we're in the same city or something. We have dinner, talk on like texting. That's definitely one. TJ McConnell from the Pacers, we always had a good time. We're on the same page with a lot of things. It's definitely one as well. I go to do dinner every day if I could. Like we did.
Yeah.
And with the Pacers, we had dinner like every road trip with dinner, had some glasses of wine, coffees. We got very close. And then I got even on the Pelicans side with CJ. We're the same age.
Yeah.
We're married, we have kids. Like we have really great talks about life, basketball, but also like everybody else here. Like with Herb, I have great talk. Dejounte. So I think that's something you got to value about. Even if you have many teammates or different teams, like friendships, like they could be for a year, for half a year, but they also could be for years after.
Sure.
So and I'm very big in like if you have somebody you get along, like keep him around. Or one like Grant Williams, I played with him in Boston. Like I always had great relationship with him. He knows my kids. He comes to the house when like in summer when he was in Boston. Like came to the house, played with my kids. So I think that's something I value a lot.
Yeah, I know you haven't gotten to play with these guys necessarily in the NBA, but what's it like when you get to see the guys from Germany on your national team? Do you get to spend time with them like during the season, when like maybe when you play against them?
I mean, obviously, like I didn't count them because it's even like a closer relationship.
Yeah.
But no, for sure, like especially when we play Orlando or something, try to see Wagner brother. When we play now, obviously with Dennis, wherever he is, with Brooklyn or Golden State, we definitely catch up. And it's not always easy to find time for dinner because the schedule, people traveling, coming back from road trip, back to back. Also having a family with kids to try to spend time. So even if we don't do dinner, like we get to get together in the summer, we spend a lot of time. But then also on the court, like we talk and like it's like relationships really grow.
Yeah. Last thing, I was curious about, there's been a lot of discussion the last few years, I mean going back a ways, but really more the last few years about the way that different countries develop young basketball players. People have talked about how does the United States need to change the way that they have the youth basketball, like the AAU and stuff like that. I'm curious from your experience in overseas or in Germany, in Europe, what do you think was the most beneficial thing to you about the way that you were brought up or the way that you practiced and were developed that you've carried over into your NBA career? Some of the things that you think benefited you the most from the way that they do things over there?
I think just in Europe in general that you can play professionally at like even at 15, 16 years old. You play against the best players in EuroLeague. Grown man like with 15, 16, it helps you grow, helps your game develop. You got examples with Luka. He played EuroLeague when he was 15 or 16. Like I think that's a part of it. What helps you a lot. Like just like going against grown man, like great players in the age of 15, 16. That might show you like where you're at this point. Like they might put you in a place and you go home and like, oh, damn, I got to put more work in.
Right.
Like I gotta, like if I want to play on this level, I gotta get better. I gotta do this, and then playing with AAU and high school, and also playing against the same age the whole time. Obviously, if you're dominant, you're dominant.
Right.
And then it can put you maybe in a spot where you think you don't have to do as much anymore. I mean, over so many years in the NBA, you've seen high draft picks coming in with a lot of hype and they're out of the league quick. If you don't keep putting the work in and just like be satisfied with the things you can do and what you have at that moment, NBA life can be over quick.
Sure. Have you heard people here in the U.S. talk about the difference in like practices versus games? People talk about how a lot of kids in the U.S. play tons of games, but they don't practice that much, whereas it seems like from everything that we've heard that it's the opposite in Europe, where when you're a teenager, you're practicing all the time and you only play like 1 or 2 games a week. Do you think that helps a lot as far as guys improving and stuff like that?
I think you can see it from both sides. Like obviously playing a lot of games helps you game rhythm and developing as well as practices. So I think that's tough to tell. Like, but even now, like with the EuroLeague out there, the teams play like close to 60, 70 games. So the practice were shorter and shorter over there now. Like
it's not as much as it used to be.
Yeah, but when I was playing, like we had 2-hour practice with tape every day. Shooter one was tape. Like there was no half speed.
Right.
But I think with the NBA, with so many games and obviously lighter practices and more focus on individual work as well, can give you like a lot of extra years on your career.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us, man. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Our thanks to Daniel Theis, and that was fun. That was fun, Jim. Good job there, sir. And
Thank you.
look, I for the rest of the season, I think what you've said in the past with all these radio roundtables and just when you and I talk on air and off air, I think all these players, whatever minutes they get, are valuable despite the win-loss record, not only for their career, you're building forward. And look, everyone likes to talk about wins instead of losses at the end of the day. And we saw that, right? I mean, you don't come back down 25 to try to win and all those things if you don't care. And at the end of the day, you're seeing that.
Yeah, and I mean, for people who look at the second half of the season as, not that important because they're so far out of the play-in tournament, I think you make a good point. I mean, for players like Daniel Theis, he was a late summer free agent signing. So, I mean, guys like that are kind of at the point of their career where they're a year-to-year basis. You know, there's no guarantee that next year he's going to be signing for big money somewhere, or, you know, that his spot on a roster is guaranteed or solidified. So, I mean, every single minute that they're out there is important. And I think for him, it's just been really positive the way that he's contributed lately and made a really nice impact off the bench, especially, but also starting lately in place of Yves Missi.
No doubt. All right, again, no game tonight. This has been canceled due to icy conditions. Bucks and Pels postponed, but it still is Wednesday, which means, Jim, you got still a little bit more work to do.
All right, y'all. Now it's time for Western Conference Wednesday. Mr. Eichenhofer will tell us whose stock is up and whose stock is down. So let's get started. Jim, what is our team to keep an eye on for this week?
Well, Mallory, it's great to see that you're still doing your job, even though it's remotely. The team to watch is the Portland Trailblazers. And, you know, I referenced this a couple weeks ago, Gus, that the Pelicans were still behind Utah in the standings. The good news is that they've moved ahead of the Jazz by beating them twice on the weekend. So now the next target for me is the Portland Trailblazers. Let's keep it very simple and say that Portland has 15 wins. Pelicans have 12. So they're going to have to win a few more games to be able to catch them, move up another rung in the standings. I did not like it when the Pelicans were at the very bottom of the West. So the further they can move up, that'll make me happy. The Trailblazers have games against Orlando, Charlotte, OKC, and Milwaukee over the next 7 days. So kind of a combination of East and West, teams that are struggling, teams that are like OKC that are at the top. Portland's done with the season series, 3-1 over the Pelicans, so we won't have to deal with them anymore, which I think is a good thing based on the way that those matchups went. And then quickly, stock up, I went with the Sacramento Kings, I think for the second time over the last 3 weeks on Western Conference Wednesday. They're now 22-20 and in 8th place in the West. It wasn't that long ago that they were 11th or 12th, so they've really rapidly moved up under new interim head coach Doug Christie. They've won 9 out of their last 10 games, so that's how you can rapidly rise that way. And they have 3 more games against the Pelicans, actually all over a 6-day span in February. So we're going to be seeing the Kings a lot here coming up pretty soon, right before the All-Star break. And then stock down, I'm going with Wemby and the Spurs.
Oh.
They're 3-7 out of their last 10 games. They're 19-22 overall. They've lost 3 in a row. They're now down to 12th place. So they've kind of somewhat exchanged spots with the Kings in the standings. And it seems like, I think most people thought the Spurs would be in play-in tournament contention, and they have been. But the way that they're playing right now is a little bit concerning as far as their ability to stay in the postseason race. And by the way, there's still 3 games left this season between the Pelicans and the Spurs. They play them February 23rd and 25th in the Blender, and then they play March 15th in San Antonio. Pelicans are 0-1 against them. They played them in, I think it was mid-December, at a watch party that we had where I was very bitter and upset at the way that game ended.
Yes, you were.
Hopefully the 3 remaining Spurs-Pelicans games will go much better for New Orleans than the first did.
Speaking of which, look at you. This is why you're a true professional. I don't even know if you meant to do this.
Segue, baby.
Yes, you see, you did. Friday, we will be over at Parlay's for a watch party, which will be interesting because I'm assuming, and based off of the fact that my kids' school is canceled tomorrow as well, Friday may be the first day for people to get out. And I'm going to assume there may be some people that are super excited to see the Pels and Grizzlies play basketball, get out of the house. We've been locked in the house, unable to travel since Tuesday. So come on out and watch it. We're super excited to look forward to. It's right there on Harrison and Lakeview. I know they're excited. We're excited to be there as well. There's always a bunch of goodies, really cool goodies, including the new keychains this year that have the little boom box on there. So those are cool. That was part of the last giveaway that we were over at Loft 18. So come on out, come say hi to Jim, come watch the game, get out of the house, put the kids to bed, do whatever, and come enjoy it. So it should be fun. And as you said, Jim, it's an interesting road trip. We'll talk a little bit more about that on Friday, but come on out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Friday's game. I mean, in particular, because I think the Pelicans are in better position to be competitive against Memphis than they were the first 2 times they played them. I mean, obviously, New Orleans is playing much better now than they were. They played them the day after Thanksgiving, and then they played them right after Christmas. And I think both games are relatively competitive, especially the game here. But I mean, I'm just curious to see if the Pelicans can just play a little bit better and give themselves a really good chance to win. I mean, this would be a great win. And like I said earlier, there's still a 4-game winning streak going, and that will still be intact going into Friday's game. So I'll be looking forward to it and the watch party. I mean, we're also going to speak again on Friday before the watch party,
Yep.
and we'll talk maybe a little bit more detail about the Grizzlies and the weekend that the Pelicans also have a game at Charlotte on Saturday. But looking forward to it. And like you said, Gus, by Friday, especially if we're still kept in the house for another day or so,
right.
I'll be like tailgating outside that watch party on Friday.
Indeed, it's going to be fun. I've had some memories, had parlays for sure, which I'm sure I'll be happy to tell you about when we get there on Friday, man. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Jim. Mr. Jim Eichenhofer, Pelicans.com. His 5 things still coming today here as well to know, even though the game is canceled again tonight, postponed for a later date. Let's see what happens between the Bucks and Pels. More importantly, stay safe, have fun. And I got an 8-year-old begging me to go make another snowman. My attempts yesterday were terrible. Apparently, it's too powdery, right? Yesterday when it was falling, it didn't clump.
Powdery, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
not like that today. I've already gotten hit with a couple of snowballs this morning. It's quick. You grab it, and it's already a ball. So maybe I might be bruised by the time I see you tomorrow, the black guy or two. Kid's got a good arm, Jim. Good arm, so we'll see.
Good luck with that, Gus, and I hope you have a lot of fun. I'd be happy to join you if I had some snowshoes, but I don't think I'm close enough to you where I can get there to join in the fun. But have fun, and I'm sure it'll be a good time. And for your son, just awesome to be able to take advantage of this because it might be another 130 years before this.
I told him that. I said, I'm 50 next year. I've never seen it. So almost a half a century of life, and I never saw anything like that last night. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast. Join us 3 times per week on Pelicans.com, the Pelicans mobile app, the iHeartRadio app, or where you get your podcasts. And be sure to give Jim and Gus a follow on X at Jim_Eichenhofer and GCat_17. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast.